Hello Year 6, welcome to History Lesson 3, where we're going to continue our topic of World War II. We're going to develop further our understanding of how life changed in Britain during World War II. So in today's lesson we're going to focus on the question, how did life change for children living in Britain during World War II? So here is your knowing more and remembering more for today's lesson. You have this set as a quiz on Purple Mash, so pause for thought, jot down your answers for now, but ensure that you complete the quiz at the end of the lesson to show me how well you've done. So for today, as we delve into the topic of life changing for children living in Britain during World War II, we will primarily be looking at the evacuation process and what impact this had on evacuees. So moving on to vocabulary. Again, in the green box we have words that you should know, and over here in the grey box we have words that you will meet today, which are evacuation, evacuee, rationing, Operation Pied Piper. I want you to pause the lesson, take a note of these words, as by the end of our unit you will then have a mini glossary of words that relate to our learning of World War II. So let's take a look at our knowledge organiser for this unit of work. Again, this is available on Purple Mash for you to print out or just to have on screen for your own reference. Please remember to use them how we use them in class to assist you in your knowing more and remembering more, your independent tasks, and importantly to revise from in preparation for your end of unit quiz. So today we will be looking at the following sections: Blitz Spirit and Evacuation. Evacuation. From 1939, children were sent from the cities to countryside for safety, and Blitz Spirit, as we looked at last lesson, was a word to describe the determination in a difficult or dangerous situation during World War II. So today we're focusing on children in World War II. I want you to think about how would the war affect children's lives, and I want you to pause the video in a moment and concentrate and focus on children's daily life. For example, think about how safe they felt, the relationships they had with their parents, and what was life at home in general like? What about their friendships? Pause the video and jot down any ideas that come to mind. The definition of evacuation is taking someone from a place of danger and moving them to safety. The evacuation of civilians in Britain during the Second World War was designed to protect people, especially children, from the risks associated with aerial bombing of cities by moving them to areas thought to be less at risk. So the military began a mission, and they called this mission Operation Pied Piper. So over 100,000 teachers were tasked at gathering millions of children out of London and then transporting them all the way to live in the English countryside. So every child had a name tag hanging around their neck, like luggage being packed on the train cars. And overall, 3.5 million children were evacuated. So from our previous lessons, there's one thing we've definitely learnt. We've learnt that looking at sources can give us more information about the past. So what I've done, I've set up a to-do for you that have these newspaper articles. These newspaper articles are sources. I've set it up as a to-do on Purple Mash, and you also might have a pack that you've got from school which have the same thing in. Now, as you read through the articles, you will answer the questions that are on the same sheet. I want you to ensure that you're using evidence from the sources to back up your points that you're making. So task 1, the question is, what can we learn from the newspaper articles about evacuation, and are they reliable historical sources? You can kind of think about now, are the newspapers at the moment very reliable? Are they telling the whole truth? Have that at the back of your mind as you're answering. You also got sentence frames here and word banks to help you with your writing. They will be on your sheets as well. So you can pause the video and have a go at that task. So moving from sources that include newspaper articles, let's look at another type of source. The source we have here is for images. I want you to analyse these images. Think about what may be positive about leaving home in a city to live in the countryside, and what may be negative about evacuation. What do these sources suggest about the experience of the evacuation process? Good or bad? Remember, there's a war going on at the time, and these cities that they're coming from, whether it be London or Manchester, they're all going to be under some severe bombing. So think carefully about the choices that you make as you analyse these images. Make a note of any ideas that come to mind. Now, on the next 3 slides, we're going to look at interviews, another source, interviews of children, as well as a news report. So these are sources directly from 1939, so you're going to have to listen really carefully because the language they used back then was quite different to how we speak now, and it is a little bit muffled, especially the radio recordings.
Somebody opened the floodgates down on the farm, and out flowed all these happy little evacuees. We're not allowed to say much these days, of course, but from the conversation it sounds as though they may have come from some part of London, possibly Cockneys.
And how do you like country life?
Oh, it's wonderful, sir. It's wonderful, sir.
Where are you?
Mrs. Hiscock's on the farm.
And what do you do there?
Oh, I milk the cows.
You milk the cows, do you?
Yes, sir.
What else do you do?
Oh, I'll feed the pigs.
Well, George, what have you done since you've been here?
Well, I've seen, a rabbit.
Oh, have you seen a mare's nest yet?
No.
Nor have I.
Well, you said well, you asked me for them.
The Ministry of Health says that great progress has been made with the first part of the government's arrangements. Railways, road transport organizations, the local authorities and teachers, the voluntary workers, and not least the householders in the reception areas are all playing their parts splendidly.
We're on number 12 platform at Waterloo Station, one of the 10 big metropolitan stations that are engaged today on the evacuation of London's school children. We're on number 12 platform, the train's in, and the children are just arriving, coming along in their school groups with a banner in front saying what school they are, the tiny tots in front, leading up to the bigger ones, the 12, 13-year-olds behind, and here comes the high school, more like 14, 15, and 16. They're being evacuated too.
According there last week to a small Lancashire mill town about 15 miles from Manchester, and found almost without exception that the children there were happy, excited by their new life, and pleased with the new friends they were making. When we arrived, the streets were given over to children. The high school girls sauntering arm in arm up the main street in their tidy brown uniforms, children playing football in the steep cobbled side streets, children going shopping for their new mothers, children making friends with policemen and ARP wardens. We finally fixed on a crowd of children from one of Manchester's central schools, who were leaning over a wall, hopefully looking for fish in a very dirty mill stream. They were very ready to talk to us, but a little shy of the microphone at first. Now, what about you two? What's your name?
Cynthia Green.
And your...
Frances Ravenscroft.
And you were both evacuated on...
September the 1st.
We know all about that. How are you liking it? What do you think about it all?
I think it's very nice. We've been taken into the homes of the people and made very homely on the first night.
Everybody speaks to you. It's very different from town life, do you think?
Oh, yes. A lot nicer than the town life. The country air is a lot different than the town air, and a lot nicer in the country than it is in town, especially Manchester.
You don't feel homesick or anything?
No, not got a chance for that.
Mum, Dad, don't get worried about us. We're all very happy here, and I don't think anybody wants to go home yet. We go on the moors, nearly every night and watch all the cows and the sheep grazing and the river flowing. We're quite near it now. And we go playing football on the football pitch and watch the colliery. Last week the boys and girls had a match of netball and there was 14 girls and 3 boys, but the girls won us.
So here's your second task. Using the different sources that we have just listened to, I want you to outline the positive and negative experiences of evacuees. So when I say outline, I just want bullet points in each column, please. So I want you to bullet point some positive experiences and perhaps some negative experiences. Pause the video whilst you complete the task. So far we've looked at some really positive experiences from evacuees from World War II. I want you to pause the video now and have a look at these different views that we have here. So I'd like you to read Mrs. Rowley, the Chepstow school mistress's accounts of problems with behaviour and diet problems. Make a note of any thoughts that come to mind. I'd also like you now to have a look at these letters. Pause the video and read through. We have a letter here from a child to their auntie and another letter here. So we've delved deeper and we have begun to see the many experiences of evacuees. They weren't all positive. There were some negative aspects to it too. So I want you to add these to your table. Once you've added them all down, I'd like you to explain this knowledge that you've just acquired to your grown-up or to your sibling or even your pet. I want you to talk to them about the good and the bad experiences for evacuees during World War II. So we've looked at the good things and the bad things that evacuees might have encountered during World War II and how they might have felt, what they've been through. We've listened to some interviews that were quite good and positive, but we've also looked at some letters that were quite sad. I want you to use the information in your table now to help you with your independent task. Your independent task is writing up, explaining these positive, these good, and negative, these bad experiences for children during World War II. Now, on the sheets that I've set you on purple mash, and also the sheets that are in your pack if you've got a pack, you'll have sentence starters and you'll also have a word bank. So the sentence starters are here to help you and a word bank like this. And you can also use all the notes that you've jotted down today through our lesson. And for those of you that like to challenge yourselves, I really want you to amaze me by looking at these sources and telling me which are reliable and unreliable and why. So how do you know they're reliable or indeed unreliable? Are they biased or unbiased? This will be a challenge in your writing task. Here we have 4 photos in different settings. Which of these photographs do you think best sums up the experience of the evacuees? Let's review the learning. Pause the video and match the question to the correct answer. Here are the answers. I hope you got them all right. As always, it's so important to know the purpose of our learning. So why did we learn what we learned today? Well, today's learning was to support us in understanding the impact of the war on women, especially mothers, as well as how the war changed children's lives. And this all comes together to give us a much bigger picture on how life changed in Britain during World War II. That's all for today. Make sure you complete your knowing more and remembering more set on purple mash. And hand in your work by the end of the week so we can see how well you've done.